Hey guys, we're here on Denmark Street in London with the absolute legend Sam Simmons from 6060 Sounds.
Pleasure to be here.
You would have seen him on Instagram, like taking over the world. Like these guys are absolutely insane. And today we're gonna actually break down some of the guitars and gear that Sam uses. And yeah, let's get into it.
So guitar-wise, what I've been playing for I guess most of the time that anyone's been paying attention, it's a replica of a 1968 Strat that I nicknamed Sonny. So there's a little picture of a sun there. The nickname came about on the original body. It was sunburst, and I always find sunburst a little bit boring. Nothing, just personally, you know what I mean? I can't help it. And so I get like this little itch in my brain, and I was like, I need to customize it in some kind of way. And so I ended up drawing a giant peace symbol there, but it looked terrible because I'm no artist by any stretch of the imagination. So then I covered that with the sunshine, and it kind of just got this nickname Sonny. And now my friends tease me a lot that it's a bit like Trigger's broom, because the only thing left on this guitar is the neck. From that original, every other little bit has been changed. But yeah, so we're on the third body now, but the name stuck with it. And so kind of as close to as I could possibly get, this is an upside down, you know, lefty reverse orientation maple cap 68 Strat. Definitely.
Yes. I absolutely love the checking on it. If you
yes. So TP Customs, my friend Tom built this body for me, sprayed it. You know, an absolute wizard, and he smashed it. It's actually, I think, the tiniest bit thicker than a modern Strat, which I really like. That it's super light. But Monty's wound me these pickups.
Oh, nice.
So these are their !69 reissues, but they did a fat wound for me. So I mean, yeah, I'm kind of at the best of times a man of few words. So I was just like, hey, Band of Gypsy's tone, could you get it?
Yeah.
and they nailed it. I mean, you know, Matt is phenomenal, and they're you know, some of the best people that I've come across, and I'm incredibly grateful to have them in there, and they sound unreal. We've got Callahan hardware, so Callahan saddles, that's a Callahan block, 5 strings, but these are the raw vintage ones, so the vintage tension. It's been refretted, so we got I think it's 6100s. It's jumbos in there.
Yeah, they look quite big.
They are. It's kind of the one modern touch in the guitar, really. And I mean, that honestly came from playing the custom shop stuff in here. I like that vintage radius.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get away from, oh, that's really nice. Especially, you know, when you really kind of want to bend and get up there.
Yeah.
It just made it feel a little bit slinkier. Then there's Goto tuners. I know if you're a super nerd, you'd be like, or an aficionado, as I should probably call you. You'd say they're not the right tuners for the period, and you're right. But these ones work great, and you know, I actually kind of prefer that almost like silver butterbean look to the slightly square ones you'd get on a real 68.
Yeah.
The logo is a transfer. So it's a real Fender neck. It's a 696 Japanese 67 reissue neck, but I prefer the kind of big logo they have on the 68s. And then so I actually put some Airfix, I don't know what you call it, but clear coat over to make it a little bit water resistant, because this is about the 4th logo. And at 25 pounds a pop, by the 4th time I was like, we need to seal this, because like after 2 months they'd start coming off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved the string tree down to kind of match Jimmy's Black Beauty.
Oh, cool. One question I had is,
Yes.
does having the less spacing of the E like that make a difference when you're bending? Or I've heard people say that.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
It definitely does feel a little bit different.
Mm.
It feels a little bit stiffer, I think, honestly. But there is definitely, I mean, maybe you'll hear, maybe you won't, but to my ears, to my hands, having reverse orientation definitely does do something to the sound, to the resonance, you know, as well as I think psychosomatically just getting you that little bit closer to Hendrix, you know, which when I was kind of going through this was definitely what I was trying to get, you know. 3-way switch, so no middles.
How do you find that on the fly? Do you ever think like...
I prefer it because it's upside down. This doesn't move unless you move it. Because
Ah,
if you
okay.
kind of knock it a little bit,
Yeah.
it stays in place. And then again, I was kind of going for the vintage thing, and obviously in the period it would have been a 3-way. And I don't normally use the 2 and 4 anyway. So for me, it kind of works good.
Did it take a while to get used to the?
It did.
Yeah.
This is my second upside down Strat. So me and my dad put one together when I was about 18 out of the cheapest Squire Bullet, but it was lovely. In that time I was more and more starting to really get into Hendrix, and having that guitar, I really loved it. But you know yourself, sometimes you can feel like, okay, this could be better, and there's only so much sauce you can put on something before you're like, I need a new start. You know what I mean? I just need to start from a slightly higher place. So I've been playing upside down Strats now, I think so long that actually if I play a normal one, your muscle memory kicks in, and I'll go to reach the volume, and you'll be, oh, it's down there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was the only thing that I found actually was really a transition, was learning to kind of switch to the volume there. You know, everything else, I think, you don't really think about it. Apart from you don't have any side dots.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be honest, like my ego kind of kicked in. And when I first started doing this, I was like, did Jimmy have side dots? Like, did this text go back and put them in? And he didn't. So I was like, if he didn't have them,
Yeah.
I'm not, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm going for hard difficulty. I think the greatest thing you can do for a guitar is play them. And this, you know, near enough was in my bed for a long time, you know, so it was very rare that I was without him. I do kind of play the crap out of it, as you can see, you know, it's kind of dinged up. Like, I've only really had this body for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And already, you know, it's got plenty of scars, so yeah, I think it has mojo. You know, other people might just say it could be better. It's got cigarette burns in there. I don't condone smoking for 2 reasons. Obviously, one, we all know it gives you lung cancer. 2, if you do leave cigarettes in your guitar, my word, it stinks. So I'm not, I don't actually smoke, but I was like, something about me was like, you have to do that the real way. I don't know why. I know that's stupid. I'm sorry. But I remember the next day after I'd left, firstly, it took way more cigarettes than I thought. And then I remember the next day I brought it out the case.
Stunk.
I remember like, oh. For anyone, you know, a little bit older, I remember when you smoke in pubs and you go in maybe like for a Sunday roast or something, you'd be like, what's that smell? It had that kind of pub on a Sunday morning smell to it. Oh, and the last thing is, this isn't actually connected. So because you can't stop your arm, so I just have a master tone and I have a master volume. Because I kept knocking it, you know, in the kind of first iteration, and I was like, yeah. To tell you the truth, I use my volume a lot more than I do my tone anyway. Never really thought it made sense how you have one tone, no tone. So I was like, let's just master volume, and now I don't have to worry about it. I'm sure there was some kind of reason for it, but yeah.
I suppose you use the volume quite a lot with your fuzz pedals.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some others. They're not really here. I mean, kind of like when I'm doing anything really for myself, that will be the guitar that I go and pick up. But no, honestly, that's really it. I think like I don't know, just something about myself. When I find something that I like, I become like a little bit possessive, and I'm like, no, that's, you know. Yeah. Maybe it's like a character defect, I don't know. So I was just telling Chris off camera, the Super Lead has literally been my dream since I knew what one was, you know, so at least the last 15 years I wanted one. And I think if you're gonna have one, for me, I was like, I really want the 100 watt. I just love the size of it. I know that the 50 watts are more practical, you know, but there was just something about the silhouette of the big one, you know, and having the hand wide is obviously quite special. So I literally got this. I got it on Monday. We're now on Thursday. And I was telling Chris, it's actually so loud. And we're not scared about using volume here, but it's so loud that I've only mustered up the courage to plug it into the bottom cab so far. I mean, we did a tiny little sound test earlier, and even Chris was like, whoa. Like, it actually made my trousers flap a little bit. I've never felt something like that. So for the most of the stuff we do, I've been using this studio for a long time. And I adore it. And, you know, that's normally the one that we use in all the 60 stuff. But there definitely is something about this. I wanted this because I wanted it, more so than I needed it. And in my head I was like, is it going to be different to the studio? And it definitely does have like a little extra something going on. No disrespect on the studio, I mean, you know, they're kind of two totally different things, but yeah, I really do love it. The cabs themselves are the hand-wired cabs, so it's the A and the B. I had to kind of scour the country to find these, you know, just because I'm not the wealthiest man in the world, and you know, like at 900 pounds new, I was like, I don't know if I can afford a whole stack like that, you know. So I went out and I found these. This one came from down the road, came from a lovely gentleman called Andrew, and he was in a David Bowie tribute band, I think. And it's quite funny. So I tested it out, and it was the first second-hand amp I think I bought in a long, long time. And I kind of had this mental checklist in my head of all the things I wanted to check, you know, speakers, authenticity, things like that. But one thing I didn't check was the weight. So I paid him, and then it was on a first floor flat, and we were carrying it down. I'm like, have you put bricks in this thing? I've never ever felt a cab that heavy, but to my knowledge, it has the 30-watt G12H Heritage series, so the 55 hertz ones. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, that's what's in there, and the same in here. And this one came from hours away. I mean, if anyone's interested, there's a tiny little story, I don't know what they're called, a highlight, sorry, on my Instagram of going to get this. But I took this, essentially, I jumped on a train, another train, a cab, and then I had to do the reverse journey. So I took this on, you know, on the train home. Yeah,
that's a sight.
Yeah, it was a sight. So everyone else is there with their luggage, and I was pushing this Sport 12 down. But when I first put it on the train, it sounds a bit stupid, but I kind of forgot that I just thought the weight of it would hold it in place, and it didn't. So it fell over as soon as the train moved, and it went bang, and everyone stood up and was like, "What was that?" And I was a bit like, "Oh, sorry." We'll start with the Isle of Tone. So
okay.
I came across Isle of Tone, you know, 3-4 years ago, I think now. Immediately was just like, what are they? So I messaged them and ended up becoming friendly with Joe, who was an absolute legend. This one I'm actually borrowing off my friends, so shout out to Rich and his incredible band Rosie for lending that to me. But I was telling Chris, so recently some friends of ours, we went to go play a show in Germany, and I just took the Fuzz and the Wah with me. It was quite a simple show. I was like, that's all I'm going to need. And so on the way back, German security was a little bit tighter than English security. And one of the things that Isle of Tone do is they give you a transparent bottom factory, and then they give you the metal one if you want to put it on. And so they pull it out my bag and they're like, "Excuse me, sir, what's this?" And I start sweating. I'm like, "It's not a bomb." But like up until that moment, I never thought about it until you see it in airport security, and they're suddenly like, and you're like, "Oh crap, that really, really does look like a bomb." Luckily, they swabbed it and they were like, "Okay." But that was a moment. I was seeing the white gloves coming on. I was like, "Oh no, I'm not getting home today." Lux 66, really nice kind of low mid-gain fuzz, very musical. It just kind of pushes the amp that little bit further. Like for me, what I really love in a fuzz is when the bottom end sags a little bit. There's something about it, and then obviously you can control your dynamics and find your sweet spots with your picking your tackle, your volume. But that one, there's just something about it. I really, really dig. I couldn't tell you what transistors are in it. I'm really sorry. I'm not smart enough to remember all of that stuff. It just goes over.
A lot of numbers.
I'll be honest. There's so many numbers. It looks phenomenal and it sounds even better. And then wah-wise, this is a wah my friend built for me, Steve, who has a wonderful company called Venus Witch. Phenomenal player, phenomenal gearhead, all-round great guy. And this is the second kind of mod on it. He'd be able to tell you a lot better than me, I'm afraid. My knowledge isn't phenomenal, but it's kind of based on that Clyde McCoy circuit. I think this one is kind of 68-ish inspired circuit-wise. Nice little touch. That's my birthday and the serial number. And it sounds phenomenal. I absolutely adore it. And actually, the dodgy paint job was me though. I did that in the summer in lockdown. So don't judge him for that terrible paint job. That was me. Yeah, the actual, apart from the sound, like even the feel of what he does, it's so light, you know. So when you kind of doing almost talking effect, you know, sometimes on some of the other ones I felt they were a little bit stiff. And that was actually the first thing I felt when I got it back. I was like, wow, it's so light. Octavia, so that's the Sibelius number.
Yeah, I've been good friends with Nico for about 10, 15
He's
years.
unreal. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many great people like yourselves in this kind of guitar community, in the pedal community. The phenomenal players, great guys, and they really make products that are just so musical.
Yeah.
I think you know yourself, like when you find the stuff that works, you don't have to do anything. You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And so, yeah, I mean, Randy Hansen has obviously kind of got the ears and the knowledge dialed in as far as that Hendrix style thing goes. But no, I got it, and I adore it. I mean, it's not just great for obviously that kind of Octavia thing, but it works amazing on a bass. And even actually, I was messing around the other day, and if you kind of mess around a little bit with a humbucker, you get the satisfaction tone, like dead on, that Stones thing. So that was really cool. And then this is a friend. Again, this is another Venus switch one, the Uni-Vibe. So Steve lent me his personal vibe for a long time. And I was like, hey, Steve, could I buy this off you? And he was like, no, mate, sorry. But he's like, if you get the pieces, I'll build you one. And so true to his word, he did. And yeah, I adore it. And actually, Steve kind of turned me on to the preamp of a Uni-Vibe, which is something I never thought about. But most of the time, I'll have this just running purely because of the preamp.
It's such a big difference, isn't it?
Such a big difference. It really kind of rounds out the bottom.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry. I'm not an audio engineer. I can't really describe the sounds properly for you, but it kind of gives a little more thump in the low end. It takes a little bit of the harshness out.
To me, it has like a vintage tinge, something.
It does, and it really brings like a beautiful color actually to your sound. So I normally kind of run it a bit like that, really. I always use the chorus mode. The vibrato mode is cool, but I don't really ever switch to it. And cable-wise, I love using coilies. I recently started partnering up with these guys, Vintage Coil. I was using some different ones for a long time, and they were always kind of cool, but they kind of fall apart, or they get they end up in like this. They end up in like a really disheveled mess.
Right.
They just look terrible after kind of like a couple of gigs. These ones have been wicked. They hand make them in Australia, and it's kind of that thing where like as soon as you pick it up, you're like, oh, I can feel that this is built properly. And honestly, for my own stuff, this is it. Like I like things quite simple. And
well, just quickly, do those cables? Do you need them for the Hendrix thing?
Well, people say they roll off the top end. I think to my ears they do a little bit. I just like them. It's not so much like a tone thing for me. It's more just like I think they're cool, honestly. For me at least, then like I say, when I'm just kind of doing my own thing, this is really everything that I need. And actually, when you start combining stuff, as I guess as Jimmy showed us, it's phenomenally versatile. And I think it's nice when you find the things that work for you. You don't have to work, Like I know that people say that it's in your hands, and obviously it kind of is. But at the same time, I think having, in your own opinion, great gear, it does. It gives you inspiration. It definitely does. And that's why honestly I do this stuff, is just because as a musician, it inspires me. Even just with the guitar being upside down, in a way that inspires me, and that's why I like it like that.